Is it on the back side? You can
Okay, I'd like to go ahead and welcome everybody out to our city council meeting. We might have to keep going here. So, first item of business is a review of tonight's agenda. Specifically, I had some questions on item 2.1.1, which is the approval of ordinance amending Title 6 of the code. Who's going to give us an update on that?
Present, sir.
Okay.
You ready? So we had this drafted actually last year. As you'll notice at the top, it says 17 in the ordinance.
Blake, can you ask John to come in?
With who?
John Brams.
Thank you. Go ahead.
And really what it was is we didn't have these ordinances updated in our court system, and the officers couldn't write tickets for these things. And these things are things that generally the state law either doesn't address or is silent on. And as you look through 6.1.3, it's failure to maintain control. Really, it's called interference with the control of the vehicle prohibited. It's what we've known as failure to maintain control in the past. And that's anything that the driver does that causes him to lose control of his vehicle, whether it crashes or not, to lose control of the vehicle. So on 6.1.4, is there any questions on that one first?
It's my understanding we're calling something different. Do we know why we're doing it differently?
No, and this might be the current terminology that the court system uses, so it's just referenced that way.
Is John the one that called it that?
Yeah. I mean, he's the one that drafted this, and so we can check with him when he comes in. Again, that probably was closest to what we used to know as failure to maintain control. I'm suspecting the court's made a change on that to this reference. John, can you help me on this one, 6.1.3 in the resolution? On the interference with control of a vehicle prohibited. That's the new court terminology for what used to be failure to maintain control. Right. Yeah.
So that's instead of calling it failure to maintain, that's what the court wants it called now?
Yep.
Yep. On 6.1.4 is improper lookout. Again, that's anything that causes the driver not to have a proper lookout of conditions in front of him or around his vehicle as he's operating it. And that's now termed reasonable and proper lookout required, right?
Example.
So an example would be if you're babysitting in the back seat and we have witnesses and you create an accident or cause an accident, we can cite you for a proper lookout. Anything that was causing you not to pay attention to what was going around the motor vehicle. Do you have a case example of what that might have been in your prosecution days?
I don't.
Typically, improper lookout or reasonable proper lookout would be, we would ride along for rear end accidents where we had witnesses that stated the person wasn't looking in front of them or where they were going. And typically, if you get into an accident, there was some amount of improper lookout, right? So, yeah. And the cumulative of these three really are distracted driving items when it boils down to it. And we do have an issue with that. Negligent collision under 6.1.5. Negligent collision is anything that creates a lack of due care where two vehicles have collided with one another. And there are times where we don't have reliable witnesses or a statement of what could have occurred that's reliable from either driver, but we know that one vehicle contacted another, so we consider that to be a negligent collision on one person's part. So again, all three of these needed to be addressed in our local ordinances for officers to write citations on, and we didn't have that. So as the courts returned those, we wanted to, I guess, recodify it would be the best word to use.
Put them in the code.
Yeah, and get these in there for the officers to utilize. So any questions on any of those three?
So since we're creating laws here, what's the punishment? Are these infractions? Are these a misdemeanor? What are we looking at?
They're misdemeanors.
They're misdemeanors? So what is the possible punishment for something like this? Is it just a fine or is it?
Fine and possible jail.
How much jail?
I don't know whether it's a B or a C.
I think these three would be C's. B's are typically like your DUIs, reckless driving would be a B. These are pretty heavy traffic citation. I'm sorry to cut you off, John. So typically what you'll see is C's are infractions involved with the lesser of those motor vehicle violations.
So like if you're on your cell phone and you rear end somebody, is that a C? If you're distracted?
Yeah, so if we have witnesses that you're on your cell phone, we'll write you under distracted
You can
driving.
prove you're texting, and would that be a C?
Right, if you're manipulating the
Same
phone
thing,
while you're driving, now when you're at a stop, you can manipulate the phone.
right.
You also are allowed in a car, and this is probably another good example, you're also allowed in a car to operate a GPS system or mapping system to function and navigate your car to where you want to go. So if we couldn't write you under a distracted driving if you got into an accident doing just that, if you were operating your GPS system. But we could then reach to one of these codes and say that you had either an improper lookout or you created a negligent collision because you weren't watching where you were going. So these kind of help us with those distracted driving issues. And as you know, we've run quite a campaign on distracted driving over the years, and we plan to continue to do that. So these would certainly help us in the collision type incidents where we're called to a scene and we really can't establish either a good witness or a reliable driver. Third, to maintain control, there is a good majority of the time that's a single car crash. So, for instance, you're coming down from Black Ridge Reservoir, you lose control of your vehicle in the snow, and while you may have been driving too fast for existing conditions, you might also have had either a negligent collision or a failure to maintain control. So what we're trying to do, and John and I have spoke about this last week, is when we have two city ordinance and a state, so we have two codes that are addressing the same thing, we prefer the officers write on the state code. But when the state is either absent or silent on a matter, we fill it with our ordinances. So that's kind of did I encapsulate that well?
Did a good job.
Good.
I don't know if you said this, but the court has specifically asked us for this, and the prosecutor has specifically asked us for this ordinance.
And this has to do with our computer systems now. We have to involve these code numbers into the system so the officers actually writes it on the citation programs.
Any questions by the rest of the council on this item?
Sounds good to me.
Thank you for that update, we appreciate it. All right, any other items for review for today's agenda? Okay, any items for future agenda?
I do, Pam with Wasatch Front Waste, she would like to come and, visit the council and just kind of review the recycling and,
Can she just do that?
Sherry,
Does it about once a year.
I do have her scheduled for our next city council meeting.
answers that, I just needed to know, she just wanted to do it. It takes about 15 minutes, just want to review that.
Fantastic. Any other items?
No, I'll just ask about the fencing ordinance, just because I brought that up. Do you know where they're in the process of updating that, when that will be in front of us, Michael?
Fence ordinance.
I'm sorry,
Do you know when the new fencing ordinance will be in front of us, the amendments?
not yet, we haven't developed a schedule for that, but it is on our list of things to do. So,
Okay, perfect, thank you.
yeah, we'll follow up with you on that.
All right.
Alrighty. With that, we'll go ahead and move to item 3.1, new employee introduction. Travis. Can somebody grab Travis? Yes.
So we're gonna send half of you down this aisle, unfortunately, and half to the backside here. So we have a few
Or just keep
employees.
walking around.
Alright. Everybody.
It's been a while since I did this.
Okay, now turn to the left.
Take one step forward.
Alright, so we're gonna start with our two new streets technicians. So we have Eric, right there in the middle, and we have Gunner. So both of these individuals started out as seasonal employees for us. And they were such good workers and worked so hard in the streets department that we promoted them to full-time positions. So kudos to them, and they got, of course, feedback from their own team saying, yeah, we gotta have these people on our Herriman City team. So I tasked them to say just one quick thing they enjoy working about in Herriman City.
I'll go first. Here in Herriman City, there's a lot of great people. The employees, top notch. They're good teachers, good examples to follow.
I'd have to say my favorite thing is running the equipment, because I just love that.
We can find some more places
Me
to
too.
do that. There you go.
Alright, next in line is Virgil. Virgil got maybe the best sayings from his manager. Said Virgil is a good fit with Herriman City. He always comes to work with a smile on his face and is happy to do any task that you ask of him. He also likes long walks on the beach, which I wasn't aware of.
The best thing I got to say about Herriman City is that I recently lost my mom due to liver cancer, and I had to go to California a few times. It's kind of tough for me to talk about, but Herriman City was open arms to what I had to do to go be with my mom. That meant the world to me, so that's what I got. I appreciate everything they've done for me. It was the best thing in the world that I could do that. I've only been here since April, and they were just like, whatever you got to do. So I appreciate everything from Herriman City.
All right, Charlotte over here. She got out of her parks uniform as a parks technician.
You won't recognize me if you see me.
Yeah, if you see her on the side of the road. Okay, so Charlotte's outgoing personality is infectious, which makes her easy to get along with. Charlotte started out as a seasonal employee as well, but because she's such a hard worker and extremely self-motivated, we hired her as full-time as soon as we could. So tell us one thing, Charlotte.
So, what stands out to me is how much family matters. I think same type of experience with my daughter with me. They encourage to take care of myself. I never have to worry if I have to leave due to something with my daughter or myself. You know, it's okay to take a sick day, and I think that's awesome. They encourage it, you know, get better, and the camaraderie and teamwork is phenomenal. I feel very grateful to be here, and thank you.
Next one up is Shannon. So we're lucky to have Shannon. He comes with 20 plus years of experience in parks maintenance.
Raise your hand.
In the red shirt over there.
The guy with the girl's name.
Got a lot of experience with ball field maintenance as well. He's only been with us for a little bit, but we can already tell he's going to be a good fit. He works hard and is willing to do anything that's asked of him. Take it away, Shannon.
Just wanted to come to a place that was close to home, and you guys wanted me, and hope that my experience can do something for a community that I'm a part of and that I enjoy. So.
Next up is Heidi. She's our landscape architect. She has a bachelor's degree in parks and recreation management, and she has a master's degree, a dual master's degree, in urban and regional planning and landscape architecture from the University of Colorado. Her background includes beautifying and maintaining prestigious golf course, the county golf course, right? Or Salt Lake, okay. And she has an eye for detail, color, and layout, and has already proven herself to be an excellent addition to the team.
Yes, I'm excited to be here. I have nothing bad to say yet, so everything is good. So excited to be here.
She mentioned that she actually gets holidays off every once in a while now.
Yeah, holidays. Oh, great.
All right, Randy, right here in the middle. He's our new senior accountant. You can tell this is an accounting answer. Thanks, Alan. Randy is a CPA and comes to us from a CPA firm in Draper, where part of his responsibilities was auditing cities.
Where's Tammy?
So,
Usually adds
we took a lot of his auditing experience. We're really excited to have. But tell us something that you enjoy, Randy.
I just enjoy the culture here. The people are all really nice. Everyone has always stopped in to say hi. You know, there's always the friendly people here at the city, so I enjoy that.
Awesome. Bethany, next up. Some of you have seen Bethany. She does a lot for the city, a lot of volunteer work as well. But she's going to be our crossing guard supervisor. So there's a lot of work that goes into coordinating schedules and making sure shifts are covered, and she's going to take a lot of that burden off of our police force.
I love Herriman since the dawn of time, and my favorite thing about Herriman is just the staff. The staff just feels like family to me. I love anytime I get to be with city staff.
And next up, we'll go Karen. Karen was hand-selected as our police office coordinator. So you saw her downstairs when she was with UPD, and we were super lucky to bring her over, and I knew they were sad to lose her, but it's going to really help our office support a lot for sure.
I love Herriman so much I moved here.
Best answer yet.
Next up is Lance. Lance is our evidence control and forensic specialist with the police department. He comes with a background in law enforcement, has a lot of experience with those safeguards and policies and practices and procedures, and he was also another one that had so much experience that we were lucky to hand select to an extent as well.
You missed on a couple things: crime recreation and forensics. Those are big things that he does, and we had to buy bottle ladders, apparently, I heard that from Chief Carr.
Apparently.
That maybe was an unfair.
Things are just
Have you looked at her yet?
Counting of what I said.
haven't.
You haven't, okay, the bar's been set, so
I know,
now,
Just walking this back now.
Yeah, no, I did say it, they just thought it was in confidence.
All right, let's tell something.
All right, well, I love the enthusiasm here at Herriman, it's awesome, and the cooperation between departments is like awesome, it's really neat to see, something we don't usually see.
And Lance today is modeling our civilian specialist uniform.
Thanks for and you're on camera.
Yeah, I know, right?
And our last one is Patsy Hall. Patsy comes with 20+ years of experience as well, right? She is our Police Drama Records Coordinator, so.
Just aged me, thanks.
But she's only 29, which is fantastic. And we were, her previous employer tried to steal her back from us, and we were lucky to hold on to her and create a culture that she really believed and wanted to come over to.
You know, I lived in Herriman for several years and I love it out here, and when the opportunity I seen that opened up to start a Herriman Police Department, I just was like, oh. And then to help start out, and who can't love the administration and all the people on the police team and then City Hall that I've met, I love them all. I love it.
It's been awesome.
I've been offered to go back again and I just, you know.
What? I like that. How did I
So thanks for your time and letting us come out and introduce our new employees. We're hiring a lot of new people, which is very exciting.
Hiring a lot of rock stars.
well, welcome, we'd love to shake
Thanks
your
for hanging
hands.
out extra.
So if you guys, I'd love to shake everyone's hands, if you guys wanna come down this way and let us shake your hands on the way out,
Come on, Charlotte, come.
appreciate it.
You weren't kidding?
I wasn't kidding.
Hey, it's just high five, high five, high five.
She's been going.
You know, that's what I heard, she actually seen someone out of your house the other day.
Yeah, I didn't know for sure where you were until the other day. How are you?
I've heard so much about you. Seriously, and all good stuff too. Welcome to the
Okay, we will move on to item 3.2, update to city boards and commissions to add a veteran and military advisory committee. Wendy.
Yes, so you all should have received in your packet just a draft of the committee for the code. Just to see if you had any questions, additions, suggestions,
That looked great.
anything to add to it?
It's just pretty standard, kind of follows the line for us.
Yeah. How do you feel about the name of the committee? Are you good with it?
Veterans and Military Advisory Committee, correct?
Yes, sorry, Veterans and Military Advisory Committee. Is that acceptable? Yeah. Awesome. Thank you.
Appreciate it. That was easy. Jeez.
I think this is, I'll just say that I think this is.
You were feeling so.
I know.
Moving right.
This is a committee that, you know,
It's all right.
that, I think will fill something that we've kind of overlooked a little bit, not honoring those people that have given an awful lot for what we have. I've been involved in a similar thing in other communities, and it's a pretty special thing to be involved in. So I'm looking forward to it.
We're excited about it. It's good.
Okay. Item 3.3, discussion relating to a text change to the Land Development Code to revise home occupations chapter. Michael.
Thank you, and Brenna's here as well to answer questions. She was the staff planner on this project. This is essentially consolidation of home occupation and daycare related regulations. So most of the ordinance information is actually in our current code. It's just being relocated to put in a concentrated section of our code. However, in analyzing our standards, we recognized that there was kind of a loophole in our standards in that a preschool had certain standards and regulations, but if you were doing like a dancing class or a tumbling class, it had similar impacts, but the latter didn't have any regulations or requirements. So we felt like it would be better to create a new classification where we could group all of those types of home occupations that have a similar impact and apply those standards uniformly. Another thing that we have done is just kind of clarified how the home occupations work for daycare in the agricultural zone. Trying to use that table more where it's all in one location. It used to be called we're now calling it special daycare.
Special home occupation.
Special home occupation, sorry. It used to be home occupation in agricultural zone, right? So we're just trying to reflect more this approach of relying on the table for that information. So. Any questions or concerns? Of course, this did receive a recommendation from the Planning Commission.
So do we already require for like a dance class to have a business license? Is that something that's already required?
Yes, yes. They just didn't have the same standards as like a preschool, for example.
So can you maybe just hit on maybe what some of those differences are that we're now asking you to?
Do you want to summarize that, Bryn?
Well, so right now, if it's daycares or preschools, we, again, there's, talks about the number of kids and where they could be,
hours of operation, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m.
And they had to come in and get a permission from the planning department before they could get a business license. If they were doing tumbling lessons with 5 sessions a day, they could go straight to the business license and not have to talk to us at all. And even though they had to meet the requirements of, say, you can't, there is requirements in here that talk about traffic on your street and not impacting your street, but they would have all come as complaints later, because we had no,
we weren't
reviewing them up front to be able to look at that. So we had one come in the other day who wanted to do tumbling lessons and do 5 sessions a day, which would be a huge impact. And what we did is we handed her the ordinance and said, you gotta comply with this, but then we had to give her a license. So now there's standards in there, talks about the number of sessions they can do a day.
So that's one of my questions
and the number of
here.
Kids.
On 10-22-8 home group instruction, number 3, it says the number of classes should be limited to 2 sessions per day. So if we have a 1-hour dance class, so we say they can only, do 2 sessions a day, is that what we're recommending?
That's what it says, yeah.
I'm wondering if that should be increased, and maybe that's a question for the council. I feel like.
I think you have to decide, you have to define how long a session is rather than the number.
Yeah, like however many hours
And
a
then
day.
you're dictating
Well,
business.
and I think you have to be, I agree, I think the session is a little bit, open-ended, but I think the intent here is to not allow it to become so frequent that it becomes a significant impact on the traffic on the street and the surrounding homes.
I'm just thinking, let's say we have a dance class on Saturday. I can see it being reasonable to have 3 1-hour dance classes, all, one in the morning, one about noon, and one in the late afternoon or evening, and not necessarily over-impacting the community. And so 2, for me, seems like maybe we should look at that. I'm not saying that's not the right number.
Well, it might be the case on a Saturday, but probably not on a Tuesday night.
And I agree with you there. So having that, maybe as we look at this, digging down just a little bit more into what exactly a session entails, and what exactly, and maybe there should be different standards for weeknights versus our school, weeknights versus weekends.
I think it's something that if it becomes an issue, then we can dig down into it and nitty-gritty, because really, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm just thinking if I were doing something like this, if I wanted to, say if it's a Saturday afternoon and we did 3 of them and it was bugging one of my neighbors, then they would let me know or come and complain, and then it's not something that we're actively going out and inspecting how many sessions are you doing.
Well, and I agree, but when they come in to ask staff, they're gonna go off of exactly what's in the code, so it's on us to make sure that we're clear now.
Well, and
They're
then
gonna put on their application
And that's where
what they
we
wanna
get
do.
feedback, right, of is this appropriate or not?
Right.
I would think, and if we, when we get that feedback, then we can make adjustments, but if we try to, I just think of all the various things that could be out there. If I did soccer lessons in my backyard, I mean, my schedule would be way different than what you just described.
Absolutely.
And then dance or whatever else it is, I mean, there's no way that we can proactively jump ahead and say, this is the weekly schedule that you would have to adhere to.
So then maybe what I'm seeing here is that this is too specific, or is too restrictive right now, and let's loosen it up a little bit, and then if there continues to be, if we have problems with it, then we can ratchet it down. But I'd rather be less restrictive in our first go around and trying to address this than more restrictive, because we're just gonna cause problems that we not necessarily need. And so it would be my suggestion that as we look at this, we may be a little bit more open to allowing a little bit more, and then if it continues to be a problem, then we can adjust it again.
And we could prepare a couple of options, maybe when you consider this in a formal meeting next time.
What do other
We could
what
have
other
a couple of
cities have
options
as far
for you to
as-
address that.
Now, what is the
Clearly,
comment?
the large group instruction and frequency of sessions, those tend to be the home occupations that generate concerns
It's the
in the
number of
neighborhood.
sections is the
Yeah.
traffic.
But maybe we can propose a fine tune on that.
Is there
Because
any,
they don't do one in the morning, they do them after work, they do one at 4, one at 5, one at 6, one at 7.
Right.
And
And
the
then you have
traffic
all the
becomes
people.
is there anything in there, I don't recall right off, that, in those terms, like for dance and stuff, daycare is regulated how many kids they can have in there. Is there anything that regulates the size of the classes when it comes to,
That's a good question.
say, dance?
There's not. I'm just double
So I
checking,
think
but
that's another factor that you have to consider here, is you
Yeah.
talk about not only sessions, but how many students are we talking about per class? Because if you're talking 20 kids per class 2 times a day,
That's
there's- that'd be- yeah,
that may
that's
be
true.
too much for me as a neighbor, even twice a day with 20. So I think it can't just be talked about in terms of how many sessions we're gonna allow. I think class size has to be a factor in that as well.
Yeah, so if we're trying to even it out to be equal with, say, the home preschool, yeah, I have to look at those aspects.
Well, maybe we say total number of pupils taught per day, so that there's some flexibility. If you have smaller classes, you might be able to have some
And
more.
other cities I looked at did it by trips. So if you have more than so many vehicles a day coming to the home, you know, they limit it that way, but that seems
It's hard to manage.
harder to manage.
That's a
But
hard
again,
thing.
sessions, I think we did 2 sessions, cause preschool is typically 2 sessions, right? And that seems to work. Again, more than that, especially cause a lot of times they're doing them in the afternoon, in the evening, 4, 5, 6. We get a lot of complaints about that kind of traffic. But you're right, on a weekend, on a Saturday, they probably could do
3 and it
more
might
than
not
2
be an
sessions
issue,
or
it might
something.
not be an issue. I'm not saying that this isn't right, this might be the right number. I just, as we're looking at it now, I'd like us to address that a little bit more and look into it a little bit more.
I think again, the number
The numbers
has
seem to be-
has to be a component
And
of that.
I agree with that.
To say, you know,
I've got the other cities that have.
It's typically 10 or 12 students is what most cities have. is
And it's
10 or
also
12.
still subject to the conditional use process.
but again, I think that as we look at it, that when you consider, again, let's go back to the dance scenario. Dance out of a home versus dance out of a studio in a commercial building, I think that
Right.
we're well within our right to limit the size of class that you're doing in a residential setting. And it is clearly different than a studio that's operated in a commercial area and is designed for that, and I think that should be in there. And again, whatever that number is, look at what's out there, maybe it's 8, maybe it's 15, who knows, but there's gotta be something in there.
Okay.
I'm good with that.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next, we will move on to item 3.4, review of the Kennecott Copper LLC, or Kennecott Utah Copper LLC annexation timeline. Jackie.
So in your packet, I provided with a proposed timeline that we are right now on track to meet. Tonight, the petition will be presented to the council to accept or deny it for further consideration. If it gets approved, then we would look to have a public hearing at the October 10th meeting and look for final adoption October 24th to have all the documentation to the lieutenant governors in the county by the end of October for the annexation to go in effect till January 1.
Are we bound to this? If we want to hit it by January 1st, do we have any wiggle room if we push it back one meeting? Or
no?
So this is the timeline if we want to get it in January. We will now move on to 3.5, discussion relating to the annexation agreement with Kennecott Utah Copper. Gordon.
So we met last week with representatives from Kennecott, went through, it was a very lengthy meeting, about 2.5 hours going through all the stuff that they were concerned about, how we would address them. So far, so the things that are specifically in there is the grandfathering of the construction yard that serves in Daybreak, right up 118th, I think we mentioned that will rezone the property, the TM zone, and the things that we're now starting to go into is the park property. The specific location and size right now is part of the discussion, and we'll be getting all that information to you we'll probably be meeting with them either later this week or early next week, so we'll come back to you with any of the details that come out of it. That seemed to be we went through a lot of issues, but that seems what's going coalescing down into the development agreement right now. That seems like the three key elements. There may be some infrastructure, but I think that's not going to be part of it right now. So I think that's basically it. So we'll keep you posted and tell you. So when this document hits you, John's already drafted it. It had those two elements in it, and we wanted, before we give it to you, we want to make sure that they're totally bought off in the whole piece, and then we'll submit you a copy of it.
Okay. All right, we'll move on to 3.6, discussion of an interlocal cooperative agreement with Salt Lake County for planning services.
So last week we met with the staff of Salt Lake County to talk about how we integrate the timeline for the code name now of our project is Jetpack, so that's cool. They've had really dumb names in the past, but that's a cool name.
You just have to talk into your microphones, your sleeve microphone when you say that.
So that's the way EDC is referring to Jetpack. Yeah. So here's what's happening with that. They emailed us just today. We got it from the planning group, what needs to be submitted to be on their October 10th meeting, planning commission meeting. And like us, they like to get it well in advance. Their staff has a chance to review it. So nothing was out of the ordinary of that. So they do seem willing to help us in that framework. We talked to them a little bit about the building permit aspect of it as well, and how that would, whether it would start in the county and stay in the county or transfer to the city. We're still discussing that piece of it. So we should have a pretty good answer by our next meeting of how that piece will go, and then we'll be talking about this interlocal agreement. So those are the, Mike, you were there, what? Yeah.
Yes, and I had a follow-up conversation with the Salt Lake County Planning Director today. We just asked whether or not that the county's response was going to be, cooperative. Is this doable? And I was told yes, that they do want to work with us, and they do feel like this is reasonable. But that October 10th meeting was if we had submitted information in September, so we need to ask them what their follow-up date is. I think it's probably going to be the November meeting. So I'm being told that they do want to work with us on this.
It will likely be the November meeting. We saw the list, and it's a reasonable list. It's just going to take a little time for us to accumulate all the information that they're asking. So we'll be working closely with the developer and their engineers, and they've started all of this work. So I just don't believe we'll make the deadline for the October 10th meeting when I saw the list. And it was a good list, so it's not protesting this. I think it's good. It's just, it does take a little time to put it all together. So on all the aspects, it seems like it's going forward very much. We're disrupting pretty much every department in the city on this deal, but
It's good there.
yeah, they were looking for things. All of them were looking for things to do right there. So So it is going well from our standpoint. It just is very aggressive, and very efficient. We don't need to be aggressive. We are very efficient with the whole process.
Okay. Any questions? Okay, we're gonna move on to 3.7, update regarding project engagement.
Blake will be able to take that.
Yeah, I think my name's on there too, and Tim. But Tammy's not here, so we've got a little presentation here. So we were requested to put something together that would provide a better means of sharing information with the public and with staff and with council regarding projects and things that are going on. So we're working on it right now. It's not ready to go live yet. We're trying to make it so that we don't spend a lot of time updating the information every week, but that it's automated by our inspections when things get approved. So, maybe I'm not on. There we go. Too many times. So, we're planning on a sheet that's going to look like this. It'll be an interactive map on the website. You'll open up the website and it'll say projects in your area, and so you'll be able to click on it, find an interactive map. It'll have a little flag by all the capital projects or whatever that's going on. And you'll be able to zoom in on an area you want to look at and see something like this. You'll click on the project, it'll pull open. So we're going to look at capital projects, active developments, and land disturbance permits. So those are the three things that most people call in about. What's going on in my backyard? And so they'll be able to call the front desk will say, oh, you can go to this website, check it out. And then there'll be more information on here as to who they can contact.
So like if they're like, oh, what's going in on the corner of this and that, they can click on there.
They'll pull it open, it'll say, you know, it's a Maverick gas station, and here's the project superintendent you can call if there's a dust complaint or if there's something going on. So we're planning on going live with this within a month or two. We're trying to, like I said, get it all pieced together. And then when you get into the project, you'll be able to see this. We're planning on something with a timeline, kind of show where the project's at, give some dates. So our key point is dates, location, and who the contact person is if there's an issue out there. And so I think it'll be really helpful for the public to know this stuff. They'll save a lot of calls, a lot of time that we spend fielding these calls, and it'll also, I think, help you guys out.
Yeah.
Because you probably field a lot of calls too, I imagine.
And there's a lot of misinformation sometimes too. No, it's a this, no, it's a that. So this would be someplace they can go and get the truth.
Yep, get the truth. So that's our update on this one. It's pretty simple. We'll have more to come in the future as this evolves into something more. These are what we want it to look like. It might not look exactly like this, but we're targeting something like this format.
Okay. Good job. Okay. I'm looking forward to it. Transparency is a key for all of us. So.
And it'll be a living thing, so if we get in it and find out that there's something that could be improved, we'll improve it as we go.
Okay. We will move on to 3.8 city manager updates. Brett, you've got a whole hour.
And we can take that up. So I wanted,
10 minutes.
Council and Mayor are receiving emails about the fire, Rose Canyon fire right as we speak. You've been probably looking at those. Some things that you not know what's going on. They are relocating animals at Butterfield Park as part of some of the evacuation. So far, there's not been homes. They were threatened. They came through the first push of the fire, or wind gusts are kicking up to 55 miles an hour at gust speed, which is really driving the fire southwest now. Windy, so you see us jumping in and out. We've had our local contractor, Brendan Newman Construction, has offered, JB Construction has offered a dozer. He has one staged up the cove ready to respond to that area if they need that. They got significant air support already going on the fire from airplanes and helicopters keeping out of the cove. When he's also staging up and getting ready to locate and isolate Main Street Park, we have to camp out firefighters that we've done in the past. She also has some of her event staff locating water, keeping the people in food and water. Even though this is in Unincorporated County, we are a partner, and that's how we're approaching it. So it doesn't come over to Herriman area, but we see that everybody's taking care of our neighbors. Animals, I said that located in Butterfield Park. Anthony's up there, been checking out, taking pictures, make sure we relocate to the families, make sure they're documented and back to when that time
Anything
comes.
help evacuating animals, or get on that? Yet. We just had a few people show up at the park with some animals.
Fire started up just on the east side of Rose Canyon Road up there and was in amongst houses. We don't know what the cause is. We are assuming it might be caused by a person in that area, but it did burn a trailer, and that's when we saw the dark cloud smoke. When you see that dark, it's getting into structure because all the things are in a structure fire. And pushed out that, and wind gusts actually helped drive it up the hill to the southwest, which could get back threatening homes again. But as you see us jumping in and out of the meeting, we have, Monty's getting staged up things. We have our water department having to make sure the pumps are on because they, the cold is keeping water, plus the hydrants, they're pulling anything off of there. So they're on that. So we'll be working with quite a bit of staff through the evening. It looks like it's going to be a little bit of a long night. We'll keep you abreast. You'll get those email updates, so stay tuned to those because they actually give you some unique detail that you're privy to that I can't say for the record because of the logistics of it. I told you there's air support, but it tells you the detail of the air support, so keep that confidential. Is that correct, Air Chief? So, then you want to add Chief Carr or Wendy?
We have 7 of the Herriman police officers up there.
We're acting, aren't we?
Yep.
So this becomes our first official police action, doesn't it?
Yeah, we went to help Brian, and Brian may be able to add a little bit more on his side as far as UPD resources up there. We're there to help, yeah.
Yeah, right now, we've kept the road closed. That's the big issue right now is the people that live up there aren't gonna be able to access their homes for a little while because we've got the road closed because of all the fire equipment. So that's gonna continue on for the next little while, but they've gotta really babysit this fire and make sure it doesn't get worse or pick up speed again.
Are we?
So their evacuation location is at Butterfield Elementary. From my understanding, they were keeping the kids there until parents actually picked them up. So that's ongoing. Probably that's kind of winding down, but you have it across.
Those were the kids who were staying there were just those on the
Just that bus that couldn't get to the area.
And I think they're starting to. I hope they get containment soon. Is the last text message we just got. So we'll try to keep you abreast, and then we'll have resources that your city will be involved with that through the evening, and hopefully get a handle on that. Cool stuff. Me and Gordon haven't had much time the last few days to spend with one another, and when that happens,
We're doing with ESP.
we've been trying to think. I've been trying to do the think process. Gordon, I have a few CM updates, but me and usually collaborate on those. Is there anything else you'd like to bring to council at this point?
No, we just have a couple closed right away items on that.
Okay, so the other thing I'd like to bring up, there's been a lot of interest in agenda item on the Herriman Hills and open space. It started early in the week, a few emails going to Mayor Watts of concern about trails behind their homes, and we've been working actually a couple of weeks now with Mayor Watts and some of those residents and Nicole. Then it took a little bit of a turn that because it's on the agenda, people were thinking they may lose the trails. That sent a little bit of panic, and so they started reaching out to you all this afternoon, showing support for the trail system. So I wanted to give a briefing on that, what you're going to see before we go into the general meeting about any concerns, updates that she may be able to give you at this point. Your opportunity to talk about it.
So a couple of things that I just want to clarify. This is not a trails master plan, just so everybody knows that. And trails are different than streets or roads or most other things, most other infrastructure that a city puts in, and that you really don't know where a trail's gonna go until you get up on a mountain and start cutting it. We do our best guess to determine how the alignment's gonna go and how it's gonna work out best, and then something will change that dramatically when the trail observer gets up on the hill. So what is in this plan is really a conceptual idea for the Herriman Hills area that's been identified. It is a guiding document, just like our general plan, to give us some ideas of what might work, what might not work, where things could potentially go, but it doesn't guarantee that those amenities will be put in. I mean, you all know this. The concerns that we had were there's one area on Eric's trail, which is the trail that we just completed cutting, that there are several switchbacks because of the slope of the mountainside. So there are several switchbacks behind some residents that live along our open space, and they had some concerns about that. Our Trails Chair went out and met with them, took video, did sound testing, decibel testing, didn't really have any concerns. She is very involved in the mountain biking community, helps coach the high school team, and didn't share the safety concerns that these residents seem to have about people crashing and those kinds of things. We do have an option to reroute the trail if that is what it comes down to. It'll cost about $8,000 to reroute the trail and take some of those switchbacks out. It adds about a third of a mile to the existing trail. So that's probably gotten a lot of emails today is what I'm understanding, and kind of wondering where is this coming from.
Eric's trail.
It took one Facebook post, so.
Yeah, we figured it was social media.
Yeah, it took one Facebook post.
So, with this, I mean, what's the, when we talk about relocating the trail, is it still switchbacks? Is it just in a different location? What are the options?
There will still be some of the switchbacks there. We can't get around that. But it could alleviate at least one, maybe two. Eric from GIS is not here today, so he wasn't able to take a look at it with me. He'll be here tomorrow, so we can put something on paper that might work.
I'd
Kind
like
of
to see the
master.
existing situation. How far away from the property line is the trail? What exactly is the concern and
Yeah,
is it
what's
necessary to do all?
Exactly.
Whatever
Because
the
then we, I
The
look at
other,
this.
the other part of that is that I've heard a safety concern brought up, but that was my understanding on the part of the residents in close proximity. Is there a safety concern on the part of the biking community that's using it?
Haven't heard any.
Because I haven't heard that piece of it conveyed through all of the emails that I've got from the community that's using it, that there's a concern there. In fact, I'm hearing nothing but a lot of praise about that particular trail. Now, certainly understand it's the concern in proximity to residents, but to Jerry's point, I would like to be able to understand a little bit better exactly what that distance is and look at some of those other concerns that are being expressed before we
communicate a little bit that guess what, that whole mountain is open space. There's going to be trails up there. There's going to be people walking around, and you're gonna hear them and see them, and I look at that as you built your house next to a park, right?
Right, and if there's legitimate safety concerns for their own property, then we need to understand those, but if it's just, other than that, I agree 100%, what is the complaint?
So that's, I'm curious, is there a legitimate safety
We can pass
concern?
this
Is it
around, but
a nuisance?
Want me to
we can pass
circle
this
the
around,
houses?
this is switchbacks right in this area, that has been a concern of these residents right here. And you see where the property line starts, you start to figure out that depth of property, it's probably 100 feet away from the house, people are walking.
There is a substantial elevation change here though, so the
That's why
concerns that
switchbacks.
they are bringing is that you basically have several people behind their house all the way back up the hill staring into their backyard. They've had people yelling, they're claiming.
I'd like
people
to
yelling
see the
at them,
actual complaints, like I got all these emails today, I'm like, what the heck are they talking about? I'm not aware of any problem
I
whatsoever.
haven't
So-
seen any complaints.
And that's because I sent them to staff to address, so I'm sure we can.
We have had
have
two
that
residents.
So kind of, so if there's I guess I'm asking is, we need to determine if there's a legitimate issue to look at.
And
safety,
we would look at
nuisance,
that early
et cetera.
on, and
And then second, as we continue to develop the entire mountain with more trails and more trailheads and things like that, we don't want to get it into setting a precedent where, well, we went to the city and told them we didn't like this and they moved it.
And I want to mention that this doesn't have anything to do with this, really. This is a more conceptual, broad view. Trails are going to move. No matter how much we try to plan them, something's going to derail a trail.
So I'm
And the purpose of having the master plan was as part of continuing to qualify for grant money, et cetera. It just had to be in place, right?
So is the blue line then the current trail,
Yes.
is this red dotted line then the proposed
That's
change
proposed
if
reroute.
we were to approve?
Correct. have a question. How old are the homes that are there? Were they aware that there was going to be some mountain activity behind them when they built their house?
So that there was an existing trail that was already there before the homes were built. But it's not the same magnitude as what we have now. Rudimentary people just out there doing their own biking that form the trail. We're doing professional cuts. It's drawing a lot more activity. We're guessing we have over 300 Strava users alone that are using the trail on a regular basis, and that's just people that use Strava. So we're guessing probably 500 to 600 users that are unique, and they love it.
But to Sherry's point, this has been an area that we've had.
There's been trails back there.
There's been trails, and there's been planned for more trails or improved trails in this area for some time.
So if I was gonna, if 5 years ago I was gonna buy that house and I came to the city and said, what's the plan for this mountain? They would have known that the plan is more recreating on this mountain than is currently being used.
Yeah, it'd be, probably would have been more difficult for them to find it. I can go back 20 years when he was involved with the county. The county actually hand walked the mountain and hand mapped in a possible Bonneville shoreline trail. And it was down across that area because you get too far back, Camp Williams don't want to go all the way back in there. That was on the county site 20, 15 years ago. But was it real accessible to the residents? It's like a lot of residents. I didn't know I was going to live next to a community garden and they look over my fence.
So some of the complaints that were received, and I'll make sure that Brett sends you a copy of those. Some of the complaints included things such as they're having people park on the street and walking through their property to get to the trail. They, when they look at this and see what the general plan is, even though it may not be something we're required to, it looks like it went more up over the ridge and down over to the side. Now it comes switching back straight down the side of the mountain right next to the property. And so when you're saying, well, if they went and looked at it, I could see there being some discrepancy over what they thought they were going to get versus what actually showed up, and I can see that being illegitimate. Not saying that that's right or wrong, but we should change it, but I can understand some concern there as well.
Well, I'm not discounting any concerns. I'm saying we can't jump it.
I agree.
We need to do our homework and.
So my question then becomes, or maybe the direction we want to give to staff, if we approve this, I assume we're trying to give direction to staff that we would like to see this specific thing come back with a little bit more detail.
This plan.
Yeah, what we're
That's
doing
not,
tonight
that's
has
not even
nothing
part
to
of
do
it.
with this.
Well,
That's why
there
I
is
was
a map, I
confused
think
earlier.
there are maps in here that show those trails.
But this is not the trails master plan.
I understand that, I'm just saying, because I know that's gonna be what they see, is they're gonna say,
Well, that's what they've already said.
This
They
is-
said, well, this paper says.
this paper says, and this is what we're
We
saying.
just need to communicate.
So when we're talking to them tonight, we need to make sure we communicate that. But we have a concern, I would like to see this come back with a little more detail so we can, in an informed manner, make a decision on what we'd like to do in that area.
Yes, I agree, I'd like to see the complaints, cause
More
I
information.
flooded with the people who wanna keep it like it is.
Right.
And so I'd
Well,
like
and
to
I think
understand
that-
both sides of that issue.
And I think that there was a sense, again, based on whatever that email was, is that there was gonna be some possible tendency or movement of the council away from
Right.
continuing to develop trails in the open space that we have. And I don't think that
Any of us.
any of us have any desire to do that. I think that the vision for a very long time has been to continue to, one, try and preserve the hills and the open space, and two, to continue to develop that for accessibility and use. And I don't think that there's I haven't heard any desire from anyone, at least on the council, I'll speak for myself, I have no desire to see us change that direction there.
Yep.
And I think that there was a possible miscommunication that there may be some desire for the council to move away from that.
Yeah.
And I'm just saying, I for one am not, do we need to address concerns? Absolutely. Do we need to have good planning? So yes, I would like to see some more information on that. But our general vision of moving forward, I think this is all the goal, and we realize the value that brings to our community.
So, just to maybe avoid some contention in the meeting today, if there are lots of residents here to speak to this, would the council have any issue with us making it clear that we're willing to hear public comment on this specifically after we get a presentation from from Wendy so that we can have maybe inform the residents a little bit more before they all get up and say what they're gonna, say what they're saying, maybe being a little uninformed. Does anybody have an issue with
I think it's
having
always the
public,
best way to go.
there at that point? So I'll,
We need to educate first,
Yeah, I think
because
so,
it sounds like there's a lot of misinformation.
and so that's what I plan to do, is that we'll get your presentation first, and then once we've gone through maybe the questions from the council, then we'll give some time for some public comment, to allow residents to address their concerns with us, and hopefully we can address some of them before.
I'm just looking, just for clarification, this item was not specifically on for any type of a public hearing.
It's not a public, it'd be public comment.
I'm
Yeah.
totally fine with taking some public comment, but again, I think
No, it was not.
think it's appropriate to do that
Rather than have them all come up with the
at the public comment.
without.
Absolutely, I agree.
So we're gonna wanna let you know, briefly. Okay. Had an opportunity today to present to the Tongass County mayors there. And emphasis on that was there's a lot of interest in a lot of small communities and large communities who want to model a little bit what we've created here. Even though each city's different and unique, but they do like what you've been able to accomplish in your town center. Yes, we still want the retail and those things for our community and restaurants, but the support that the council has given to build a building that actually is very much emphasizes this is the community's building. And with that, you did a good job with that, and you did also a good job with the park, because it makes it the community use. And that was the, I think, the emphasis on it. They've all tried to figure out how to get what you have, which is always a good thing. They can set the bar, but it does present a high quality life. The comments after, how did we get there? How do you, the process of bringing the public along and help them understand this is your space. This is really your community. This is the gathering place. And I might have let the cat out of the bag a little bit what Wendy's planning next year. I won't read it out now, but she's got some phenomenal ideas for our 20-year anniversary in Herriman Corporation. It'll be a great year for us, but it's very prideful to be a part of that, and to be, it's the part I'm easy to talk to about. Passion that I know that all of you share about our community. That's always easy to talk about. And it's just fun to come to work. Yes, it's work, but to look out the windows or walk out the south doors and see at 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning, kids up that splash pad. It's truly perfect, iconic to say this is their space. And they showed pictures of ice skating, so it's really every season this space gets used. And the food trucks that Wendy brings in, her staff, how they keep it busy and inviting and keeping people come out and talk to each other. Talked to a lot of mayors after, and we got some appointments coming up. We want to come out and look at it in more detail. I want to let you know that hopefully you have all the pride that I have in our community, and was able to share that story for you. Okay. Other than that, Chief, you have anything that has popped through the last few seconds? The fires, they feel the fire that on top of it, it's kind of holding its place between two roads right now. It's getting still conflicting information on the evacuating animals and going first thing and not evacuating animals. But we are confident that it is downsizing right now. They're getting a little bit of a handle on it. Hopefully the winds will stay down, give them an opportunity to get on top of it. And that'd be great because I for one don't like those long nights. Been or done that, but we'll do it again if we need to. And Tammy, I didn't ever say her name out loud or another staff by name that are out there working. Tammy is at instant command to make sure she's gathering information that she can release that's getting out to our residents. And that was after the last little fire we had up there. We did a little hot wash with Unified Fire and those involved, and said we need to have someone at site so we get our information to this probably out in this area. That's, they definitely listened to that, and also our resource monument that comment, this coming after, they were very on top of communicating this to us this go around. So if we keep on going through the night, I think, we'll be able to go to bed on time and things will be good.
I just told Destiny she messed up by letting Tammy run out the door first.
Yeah, she grabbed her tennis shoes and she was out with her go kit and she was gone, so.
So, is that it for you, Brent? Do you have any other items? Okay, that brings the end of our work meeting. It does look like we have some. We'll do the close.
Do that really quick. Might be about 2 minutes.
Yeah, maybe we can get you out here even earlier.
I like that.
I will accept the motion to go into closed meeting.
A motion to temporary recess our work meeting to convene in a closed session for the purpose to discuss the purchase, exchange, or lease of real property as provided by Utah Code annotated 52-4-205.
Second.
Okay, a motion is second. Jared?
Yes.
Sherry? Clint?
Yes.
I vote yes. We are moving into closed meeting. Thank you everyone for coming in. You're welcome to step into our council chambers and we'll be